Ich bin hier. Ich bin immer noch hier. And my dragon is here too. My dragon ist auch immer noch hier. But tonight my dragon is wearing a very secure muzzle. Because last time I let my dragon out, several people found it, well, unnerving? Well, that's okay. Now they have a clue. But tonight I'm going to keep a muzzle on my dragon so that people will be more inclined to actually hear what I say rather than the manner in which I say it. So, let me begin. We have all heard quite a lot lately about Roy Moore and his alleged indiscretions and improprieties. Some of us have heard more of Mr. Moore than we care to. Some of us know that there will be even more of Mr. Moore and his peccadillos. No, I'm not going to say that word. To come. What I wanted to say about Mr. Moore and all of his strident, self-righteous defenders and supporters and advocates who would have us all believe that he is the last righteous, moral man in America. No. I would say this instead. The righteous person, the truly righteous person, does not brag of their righteousness. They do not boast of their righteousness. They do not demand reward for their righteousness. They are righteous because they understand that righteousness is, well, the right and proper thing to do. They are righteous because they know that righteous behavior is good for everybody. And yeah, oh, by the way, God, the Almighty, Divine Providence, Allah, Jehovah, whomever, whichever name you put to divinity, doesn't so much demand it as suggests it very strongly. They are righteous because they understand that righteousness is in and of itself its own reward. Righteousness is in and of itself the path to salvation, not only for themselves, but for everyone their righteousness touches. The truly righteous person is willing to work piously and humbly and without celebrity and without notoriety, helping everyone they can, feeding them, clothing them, giving them comfort, helping them, supporting them, because it is, well, yes, the right thing to do. They are content to let righteousness be its own reward in this world, rather than use it as a bribe in the next world. They know that God is not moved by demands of, look, Lord, see how righteous I was. See how many souls I brought to you. Because the truly righteous person understands God doesn't care about how many souls you bring to him or her. God only cares about the soul that you bring to him or her. Only one. Everybody else is responsible for their own souls, not you. And yet, there are those who profess to God Almighty their righteousness, who proclaim indignantly how they are being persecuted unfairly by the wicked and the sinful because they are the righteous. They are unconditionally righteous, and they deserve everyone else's respect and gratitude for being righteous. Well, we have all heard what Roy Moore has said about why he is being victimized. We have all heard what the defenders and supporters and advocates of Roy Moore have said about the allegations against him. What kind of righteous person justifies child molesting? What kind of righteous person justifies molesting young underage girls? Roy Moore is not a righteous person. The people of Alabama who support Roy Moore are not righteous people. And you don't need me to tell you that. You don't need me to tell you why. You can figure that out for yourselves. Most of you already know. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. The other thing I wanted to say has to do with the staggering, unfathomable, almost incomprehensible, transcendental treason of Donald Trump and his family and his advisors and his administration, and yes, even the Republican Party, because they knew what he was getting into. They knew what he was leading them to. They knew what they were getting into when they supported and embraced and conveniently looked the other way when Donald Trump admitted to being a sexual predator, when Donald Trump admitted to admiring Vladimir Putin, when Donald Trump praised dictators and despots around the world, including this past week in the Philippines, speaking very flatteringly of the Philippine President Duterte. The Republican Party knew. They cannot claim, oh, gee, gosh, I have no recollection of that. I don't remember that. I have no direct knowledge of that. Oh, the hell they didn't. They most certainly did. So the Republican Party is just as guilty as Donald Trump. And is there anything that we, as the American people, can do about it? Unfortunately not. Not by 1, not by 10, not by 100, not by 1,000, not by 100,000, not by 1,000,000. Because for all of our rights and all of our liberties, we collectively do not have the kind of political power that is required to stop Donald Trump right now. And yet that power does exist. It exists in the body of the United States Congress. It exists in the House of Representatives. It exists in the United States Senate. The Republicans have no mind, no will, no stomach, and no intention to exercise that authority, at least not yet. And sadly, neither do the Democrats in Congress. Not in the House, not in the Senate. They are content to moan and lament and complain about how awful Donald Trump is, how terrible Donald Trump and his administration are. They're good at that. They're very good at complaining and pointing fingers and making the Republicans look bad. It's easy to make the Republicans look bad. They do a pretty good job of that on their own. They don't need the Democrats telling the world and telling the country how bad they are. They make that pretty evident all by themselves. Still, Robert Mueller is a good man. He's a professional. He's a dedicated professional. He knows his job. He knows his craft, and he's very good at it. He is thorough, and he is methodical, and he is detailed, and he is just the right man to do the kind of work that he and his team are doing. And yet, too many Americans, including people in the media, Rachel Maddow comes to mind, Lawrence O'Donnell comes to mind. And a lot of other people come to mind. George Will, Dan Rather, notable media type, are all looking for a superhero. And they have cast Robert Mueller in the position of that political superhero. Well, my concern is this. By the time Robert Mueller has completed his investigation and all the indictments have been returned, all 20 or 30 or 50 or however many indictments have been returned, what kind of damage will Donald Trump and his hordes from hell do to this country and this planet? Will the damage be irreparable by the time Robert Mueller returns the last indictment from his investigation? Will it even matter anymore? My concern is it will not. The phrase, closing the barn door after the horses have run away and are grazing in the next county over, comes to mind. We need to exercise the limited political authority that we as American citizens have, and we need to direct our collective fury and our rage at the Democrats who are doing nothing. We need to make the Democrats as afraid of not using their political power and their political resources as they are right now afraid of using their political power and resources. We need to make it clear to the Democrats they may be content to wait until Robert Mueller completes his investigation and returns the indictments, but we are not. We as a nation cannot afford to wait. We need to bring pressure to bear on the Democrats as well as the Republicans. And more of them are coming around to see the light, finally. The light of the hell that Donald Trump is bringing in his wake. We need to weigh heavily on the Democrats. We need to weigh more heavily on the Democrats than we do on the Republicans, because the Democrats can stop this. The Democrats in the House, the Democrats in the Senate can stop this, but they don't want to. We need to make it obvious to them that if they don't do their job, we sure as hell will. And I think I'm going to stop now because my dragon is perilously close to bursting and breaking its muzzle. So, until next time.